Today, we're going to dive deep into the plant kingdom, and we're going to uncover a genetic surprise that pretty much turns what we assume about evolution completely on its head. Turns out, the smallest plants have the biggest secrets.
Okay, so for about 500 million years, ever since plants first made their way onto land, they've basically split into two huge groups. On one side, you've got the bryophytes. We're talking mosses, liverworts, that kind of thing. They're ancient, they're small, and they're pretty simple, no true roots or veins. And then on the other side, you have the vascular plants. That's, well, everything else. Ferns, flowers, giant trees, the whole shebang that dominates our world today. So, looking at these two, the obvious guess is that the big, complex trees and flowers must have a bigger, more sophisticated genetic instruction manual to build themselves, right? I mean, it just makes sense. And at first glance, the science seems to back that up. If you just do a head count of all the genes, yeah, vascular plants do have more on average, almost 35,000 compared to about 28,000 in bryophytes. So, case closed? Not even close. See, here's the twist. That total gene count, it's actually a little misleading. The real question isn't about how many genes you have, it's about the variety of those genes. What can they actually do? And this is where the story just flips on its head. When scientists looked at the diversity of what are called gene families, and you can think of these as unique types of genetic tools in a toolkit, the picture completely changed. Bryophytes have a vastly larger genetic library. Over 637,000 unique tool types, compared to just 373,000 in all vascular plants combined. So let's just zoom in on a single plant. On average, a single moss or liverwort has almost 8,000 unique types of genes in its toolkit. That is more than double what you'd find in your average flower or tree. So while a tree's genetic toolkit might be deep, the moss's is incredibly wide. It's just way more diverse. Okay, so the big question is how? How did these humble little plants manage to build such an unbelievably diverse genetic library? Well, it turns out they had a really clever two-part strategy for innovation. Their secret weapons were constant invention and, well, theft. First, they are amazing at creating brand new genes totally from scratch. And second, they are constantly borrowing or stealing useful genes from all the other organisms around them. So that first method is called de novo origination. The easiest way to think about it is like building a completely new tool in your workshop that has never, ever existed before. Bryophytes are just masters at taking what scientists used to call junk DNA and turning it into new useful genes, constantly giving themselves new abilities. Now, the second method, horizontal gene transfer, is even wilder. This is literally like raiding the workshops of your neighbors. You know, the bacteria, the fungi, even viruses, and just taking their best tools for yourself. Bryophytes are incredibly good at just sucking up foreign DNA and plugging it right into their own genomes. And you can see just how much they're borrowing here. The vast majority of these borrowed genes are coming from bacteria and fungi, all the microscopic life they're constantly surrounded by. This gives them this steady stream of new genetic tricks to survive. So what does all this genetic variety actually do? Well, it builds a powerful, real-world survival advantage. This isn't just a numbers game. It translates directly into some incredible resilience. You really can think of their genome as the ultimate Swiss Army knife. This massive library of unique and borrowed genes gives them the tools to handle almost any challenge the environment can throw at them. We're talking extreme drought, intense heat, UV radiation, fighting off nasty pathogens, and even producing powerful toxins so insects won't eat them. And some of these borrowed tools are just shockingly powerful. Get this, scientists found a protein in a liverwort that came from a gene it had snagged from a fungus. When they tested it, this single protein was so good at killing a common agricultural pest that its potency was almost as good as a major commercial insecticide. That's incredible. And this isn't some rare one-off thing either. On average, a single bryophyte species has about 229 of these horizontally transferred genes working for it. That constant flood of new genetic material means they are always getting new ways to defend themselves and survive in tough spots. So what we're really looking at here are two completely different but equally successful playbooks for how to win at the game of life as a planter here on Earth. Let's just break it down. You've got the vascular plants. Their strategy is all about refinement. They find a gene that works really well, and they just make tons of copies and tweak them a little bit. This creates a really deep, but ultimately kind of narrow toolkit. But the bryophytes, their strategy is pure innovation.
They are constantly inventing and borrowing brand new tools. This gives them an incredibly wide toolkit packed with all sorts of novel solutions.
And here's the big takeaway. This shows us that there's more than one way to win at evolution. It's not just a simple path towards being bigger, stronger, or more complicated. Success is just about having the right tools for your environment. And Bryophytes prove that a strategy of broad, messy innovation is just as good as a strategy of focused perfection.
And this all leaves us with a really powerful final thought. In a world like ours, one that's changing incredibly fast, who has the better strategy for survival? The specialist, with their deep but brittle toolkit perfected for a world that's disappearing? Or the innovator, with a wide, messy toolkit, packed with strange solutions for problems that don't even exist yet? It really seems like the oldest plants on Earth have a profound lesson to teach us about resilience. When you're facing uncertainty, maybe the greatest superpower of all is just the ability to invent.